Imagine a little boy sitting on the stand in open court. That's troubling enough. But now imagine that the story he has to tell is one that could rob him of his mother forever.
How old are you?
7.
Who is this, or what is this?
My mama.
And what is she doing?
Killing my sister.
I've got to ask you this, because I want to see your reaction. Did you kill Adriana?
No, I did not.
Did you dunk her in that pool until she drowned?
No.
There are only 2 possible penalties that can be imposed for the crime of first-degree felony murder. They are either death or life imprisonment.
And I just emptied the gun and I ran.
The decomposing body of Jimmy Jost was found in southwest Austin with 10 gunshot wounds.
I've been a police officer for 25 years. I've been a detective for 17. And no, I have not seen anyone plan it to this detail.
Do you still love him?
Yes. We have a child.
Think you'll always love Jimmy?
Yes.
I need an ambulance.
What's wrong, ma'am?
My daughter fell in the pool and she's not breathing.
Where at, ma'am?
In Esto.
And she's not breathing? How old is she?
She's 7 years old. Oh, God.
Just a second, ma'am.
Her lips are purple. What do I do?
Holmes County Sheriff's deputies are investigating their second tragic water incident involving a child in just 3 days. Now, this latest happened about 3 o'clock this afternoon in the community of Esto. Authorities say a 7-year-old girl drowned while playing in a swimming pool.
I was on my way to meet Amanda Lewis, the mother of AJ and Adriana, who died when she was 7. Amanda has spent the last 8 years in prison.
Tell me, in your own words, exactly what happened on the day that Adriana died.
We went outside, the kids were playing, and I had to step back inside. And when I stepped back inside, somewhere along the point, she had went and got the wagon, and she had pulled the wagon beside the pool. And she had gotten in the wagon, her footprint was in the wagon, and somewhere along the line, she fell in with the dishpan.
So AJ comes in and tells you what?
That Adriana was playing in the pool. I thought he meant she was standing beside the pool, splashing in the water. I looked out the back door, and that's when I could barely see her floating in the pool.
You run outside? And you get her out of the pool? How did she look to you?
She was slightly purple. I put her on the ground and tried to get the water to drain out and started doing CPR.
Did you realize that she had died before they even got there?
No. When they got there and EMT, the fire people was doing CPR, they had slightly got her back and they were going to airlift her to Panama City.
When you get to the hospital, what happens?
The doctor come in and said that Adriana was gone.
What impact did those words have on you?
It was like part of me was gone. And it was part that I'd never be able to get back. To me, my kids, they made my world. They made me a stronger person. They made me feel like I was everything that I was supposed to be.
Good morning. We're going to present the testimony of a 7-year-old little boy in a big courtroom such as this. With people, he's going to come in here and you're going to be total strangers to him. But he's going to try to do his best when he gets up here. I'm not asking you to believe him just because he comes in here. I'm asking to you just to be patient and listen to his testimony and then give it the credibility that you determine that it deserves. You will hear how AJ saw his mother dunk his sister into the pool. That's what led to the death of Adriana Elaine Hutto. Thank you for your attention.
Sheriff, just tell me exactly the scene that you encountered when you got here. Where the pool was, where Amanda was, where Adriana was.
When I got here, there was fire trucks here, ambulances, and other patrol cars from the sheriff's department. The pool was right out there. You see the pile of wood? Mm-hmm. It was in front of it, coming this way several feet, but it was right out in that area. Now, when I got here, they had Adriana, they was working on her there. Amanda had got back in the house and was in the living room and the floor in the house whenever I got here.
What was your gut feeling about what had happened here, your first feeling?
We treated it as an accidental drowning. The little boy, AJ, was here and his grandparents had got here, and we let them take AJ and take care of him after we got the mother in the car and got her gone. Well, we had left and I had got back to the sheriff's department whenever the grandmother called me and said, "Sheriff, I need to bring AJ down there and let him tell you what he's told me."
Pick a seat to sit in? Which one you gonna sit in? You sit in that one? What you got? What is that?
Sheriff badge.
A sheriff badge?
I was sitting at that desk right there when I got that phone call, okay? And I remember Dennis Lee saying, "I need you to look at this case." And I'm like, "Dennis, I'm swamped down here, you know?" And he said, "No, really, I want you to look at, just look at this interview of this little boy." And they brought it down a couple of days later. Another prosecutor, we were working on another case, and she was in here, and we watched that, and we were like, wow, you know, is he telling the truth, you know?
Who threw her in the pool?
My mama.
Mama threw who in the pool?
My sister, Adriana.
Okay. And then what happened when she threw her in the pool?
She started holding her face, so Adriana started screaming, so I went, pow, 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 with my gun.
Okay.
So Mama said, "Stop it!" So I didn't stop it, so Adriana screamed, AJ, call the police."
You said your mom held her face? How did she hold her face? Yeah.
An Estill woman is in the Holmes County Jail tonight charged with killing her own daughter. At least one witness says they saw Lewis pushing the little girl underwater. Lewis has reportedly denied she killed her own child. She is due in court tomorrow morning for a bond hearing.
Amanda was a single mum, a care worker on night shifts. She was just 27 when Adriana died.
I thought I had a good life. I had a good job, 2 beautiful children. You know, even though my parents were divorced, I still had a good family life.
What was your relationship like with your 2 kids?
I had a good relationship with them. Adriana's, it was a little bit tougher just because she was dealing with what she was dealing with, but I never had a bad relationship with them. They were always happy. We always did things together, you know, McDonald's.
Adriana had apparently ADHD. Was that medically diagnosed? What did that do to her as a young girl? How did it make her behave?
Sometimes she was real rambunctious, always wanting to go and do, could rarely sit down, rarely watch a movie. But other than that, she was just on the go all the time.
You loved her?
Of course. Very much. She was just a miniature version of me.
In what way?
Every way.
What do you mean?
Physically, she was identical to me. Her demeanors, her mannerisms, down to the way she walked, was just like me.
And temperamentally, was she like you?
She was quick to throw a fit, but she was still a good child. She was still a good little girl.
I told you briefly what AJ had said. I don't know how to put this, but he seems to believe that you drowned her.
Well, I don't know why he would think that. I mean, I wasn't even out there. I was in the house.
Why would he accuse you of drowning your daughter?
He does like to tell stories. I mean, he's got, I don't know if I'd say weird, but he does have a very big imagination.
How would you feel about taking a polygraph?
I'd be fine with it.
You think that might be beneficial?
Well, evidently, because I know, you know, everybody's looking at me.
The only way the state could present a homicide case was to rely on the testimony of, in my opinion, an incompetent witness.
I've been doing this for a long time. AJ told us the truth. He told us what he seen that day.
AJ, if you'll come right over here and just have a seat in that chair right over there, okay?
I found him to be a credible witness. If I did not believe he was a credible witness, I never would have put him on the stand in the first place. Now, this is microphone right here, all right?
When he walks through the door into the courtroom, and you see him for the first time since all this has happened, what is your reaction?
I miss him, and I wish that I could pick him up and hug him. I was very upset because I couldn't believe they were doing this because he's only a child. But just disbelief.
AJ didn't recognize you at first. He hadn't seen you for a while. And then he does. And he bursts into tears. And you burst into tears.
I wanted to get up and go to him. And I even asked my attorney, just please stop, just make him stop. But I couldn't.
Can you tell me what a lie is?
It's not the truth.
Can you tell me what the truth is?
It's not a lie.
If I told you your mother was in the courtroom here today, would that be the truth?
No, sir.
That would not be the truth. Why is that? Because she's not in the courtroom?
No, sir.
Where is your mother?
Jail.
She's in jail.
That woman sitting right there between them, have you ever seen her before?
Yes, sir.
Who is that?
My mother.
Now you recognize your mother?
Yes, sir.
Hey, James. Hey, James.
Yes, sir.
Give me your hand. All right. Here. Here.
This case could never have come to court were it not for the testimony of 7-year-old AJ. When the police asked Amanda to take that lie detector test, she passed.
In your career, have you had a case that's incensed you quite like this one?
I mean, this is probably the worst of the worst. When the factual complexion of the case is so clearly pointing in one direction, that indicates that this was a tragic accident.
What do you think happened? Just talk me through what you think happened.
I believe the children planned on swimming in the pool, but that they had to get the bugs out of the pool. I think Adriana stood in the red wagon next to the pool, was leaning over the pool with the metal pan that was found floating in the pool, and was in the process of scooping up bugs from the pool when she fell head first into the pool, causing the water to come over the side of the pool and fill the little red wagon. It was found by the emergency responder, who immediately surmised that this was a case of accidental drowning.
This is a case that we believe she maliciously punished her daughter, Adriana, and she just went too far. She was under a lot of stress. She was tired. She had tried various other forms of discipline that appeared not to be working, at least to Amanda Lewis. And that is what we think happened.
Why are you so sure? Why is there no element of doubt in your mind?
As you will recall, the pool was anywhere from 32 inches to 35 inches high. Adriana was 47 inches tall. If she had have just simply fell into the pool as an accident, all she would have had to do was stand up, as she had done before when she was in that pool, and she would not have been drowned.
It had a very strong, the whole house smelled of urine and feces.
It had a stench of urine. You could hardly stay in that room. I mean, you had to get a breath and go in there and then come right back out.
Okay, you may be seated.
Amanda Lewis, how do you know her, ma'am?
She's my daughter.
Adriana Hutta, how did you know her?
She was my granddaughter.
Did she seem to have, your daughter seemed to have a short temper with Adriana?
Yes, sir. She did have a short temper with her at times.
How about AJ? Did she have a short temper with AJ?
Not as much.
Some people have said you weren't a good mother, and they put that down to when the police went in, they smelt urine in the younger kids' room. They didn't see any toys. They felt from what they were picking up from people that you were pretty tough, lost your temper.
As far as the smell of urine, she wet the bed quite a bit. But there was also a dog in the house that urinated on everything.
Did you physically punish the kids, Adriana and AJ?
No, for the most part, they got timeout.
What did that mean?
Timeout benches or the corner. There was only one time that I really did spank Adriana, and she had little marks on her little backside cheeks. But
why did you do that?
I can't even remember what she did. That, yes, I do. She wrote throughout my car with a permanent marker.
What did she write?
Loser. And I don't even know where she got the word from.
One of your colleagues at the care center remembered you saying you were so annoyed about Adriana's behavior one day. You said, "Oh, I want to kill her." Now, given what happened, people could put two and two together and think, well, there we are.
I did not say I wanted to kill her. I said, oh my goodness, I could have just killed her.
About the car?
About the car.
She came in and she was very upset, very irate. And we said, "What's wrong, Amanda?" She said, "I'm just gonna kill him, I'm gonna kill her." And I was like, "Don't say that."
She was just like at the end of her rope that morning. Like she just couldn't take it anymore.
What did you mean when you said, "I could have killed her"?
That it just frustrated me to the point of being angry.
Up right here. I think you're going to have to kneel down right there. Kneel down. Okay. I want to show you this photograph here, 1B. Let's just move that one out of the way. 1B. Now, whose red wagon is that?
Mine.
How did that wagon get there?
My mom pulled it all the way from there, all the way back to
Okay.
here.
All right. Now, did you draw a picture?
Yes, sir.
Tell me, AJ, what is this right here? Who is this, or what is this?
My mama.
Okay. And what is she doing?
Killing my sister.
How is she doing that, AJ?
Putting her hand over her face.
What is this right here?
My mother's arm.
Your mother's arm?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What does this mean right here? She did.
Died.
What?
She died.
She died. Okay. You mean your sister died? Okay. What does too bad? What does that mean?
That means it's scary.
It was scary.
So the jury had to decide, did they believe AJ? Or was this just another tragic case of the most common cause of accidental child death in Florida, drowning?
I've got 4 kids, and when they were all of that age, of AJ's age, I'm not sure how reliable they would have been in recollecting what had happened, given the trauma of what went on just a few yards away. Why are you so confident that AJ was telling the truth?
In the statement AJ gave us, the first one he gave us, he said that his mama done that to his sister's face. He told us his sister had got in trouble that morning because she had took blue spray, which he called Windex later on, sprayed the TV. We got the search warrant, we went in and got the Windex out from under the kitchen sink, sent it to the lab, and they put Adriana's fingerprint on there. It was a positive match. He told us that he had seen a man cutting down trees on a tractor. We confirmed that West Florida Electric was out here mowing the right-of-way for the electric lines that morning. He told us that he seen the Army men flying over. We contacted Fort Rooker. They confirmed that this was in the flight pattern that day for their helicopters. You know, we confirmed everything he told us, basically, which added legitimacy to his story.
But it is also true that as he recounted his story a number of further times, he was inconsistent. I mean, his story did change. It wasn't always completely the same.
The consistency of what we were able to confirm stayed the same.
But it's such an exceptional circumstance for such a young child to, in the end, be the pivotal reason why somebody is found guilty of first-degree murder.
But you know, he's a young child who didn't know to do anything but to tell us what he saw that day.
AJ said that he saw you do it. Is everything that boy said a complete fabrication? He just misremembered everything he'd watched. I mean, pretty extraordinary for a young boy to invent a story about his mum murdering his sister, isn't it?
Everything he said was not true, but everything wasn't a lie. I believe what happened, he took a series of events and put them all in one day. She had gotten in trouble for spraying something a week prior, and he put it that it happened that morning. So everything he said was not a lie. I just believe he fabricated a series of events into one day.
There was one piece of evidence the prosecution argued proved AJ's version of events.
On that day, were you present when an autopsy was performed on Adriana Hutto?
Yes, I was.
Did you observe any injuries to her body, ma'am?
Yes.
Tell us what you observed.
The most significant were the two on the midline of the forehead. Also noted are two smaller bruises to the right side of the forehead over here. I placed my hand over the bruises, and as you can see on the side of the cheek here, it lined up perfectly with the side of my left thumb. This would be the index finger where it lined up.
If you would, ma'am, just use your left hand as you would on your face, demonstrating to the jury how that would have been. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. No further questions. Can you go to the very beginning where it says resume or whatever?
Who was in the pool?
Adrian.
Did your mama get in the pool?
No. Adrian was just in the pool with Mama. But Adrian was laying like this and Mama holding him like this, so she went scream.
Today?
So it's under Florida law. There are only two possible penalties that can be imposed for the crime of first-degree felony murder. They are either death or life imprisonment. This court adjudges you to be guilty of that crime and sentences you to imprisonment in the Florida Department of Corrections for the remainder of your life.
Do you still hope to get out of here?
Every day.
How do you hope to achieve that?
Through the courts, proving that I'm innocent, proving that what they said I didn't do. And I fight every day to prove it. And I'll continue until I do.
What do you feel about AJ? He's now 15, you've not seen him for 7, 8 years since he was in that courtroom testifying against you.
Mm-hmm.
If you had the chance to speak to him, what would you say to him?
That I love him. And no matter what, I will always love him. And that in no way do I blame him for what's happened.
As AJ waved to his mother that day in court, it would be the last time she would see him. AJ now has a new family. He's been adopted. But in 3 years' time, he will be old enough to decide for himself whether he wants to see his mother again.
Thank you very much and welcome to the 1990 Miss Texas USA pageant, and what fun it is to be back here.
She surprised him, came out of the attic area, and she just started shooting and unloaded the Glock in his body, I believe, 10 times.
According to the FBI, women who commit murder are 3 times more likely than men to kill someone they love. In 2004, in southern Texas, a former beauty queen committed a brutal and infamous murder. She shot her millionaire lover 10 times.
As you're even going in through the garage door, which was open, you could just smell a decomposition odor coming from inside. And it just got stronger and stronger as we continued to enter in.
How bad was the scene that you discovered?
Well, the actual scene itself was pretty bad. I mean, the victim had been there for enough time to where he was decomposing. And it was confusing when we were looking at it at first, is how someone in their own house could be shot in the location, in the manner, like he was an intruder almost to a point based on how it looked in his own house.
From where you saw all the bullets and where they had flown and where they'd landed, talk me through what you think happened.
It looks like he was walking down the hall. 2 bullets went, one went into the door that he was by, and then one went into the wall. And it tore up his right side and into his torso area as well. And then we found some shell casings right near him. That's someone who wanted to kill somebody.
That someone is Rhonda Glover. She has been in Texas State Prison for the last 10 years.
Good to meet you. I'm Piers. Nice to see you, Rhonda.
Her victim was a wealthy oil man, Jimmy Jost. Rhonda has always claimed it was in self-defense.
There's this guy that you had this great passionate love for, and he for you. There have been good times and bad. There have been all sorts of stuff that's gone down, and yet there's a moment when you have a gun in your hand and you shoot him dead. And you stand over him and you empty the magazine.
That I never stood over him, and that's a lie too.
There were 10 bullets discharged. Do you dispute that? Or was
Yes.
that, there weren't 10
there were 10 discharged, but 6 were to his elbow,
Okay.
trying to stop him.
Okay.
Yeah, I was never trying to kill him.
You didn't want to kill him?
No.
What did you
no.
want to do to him?
Well, when he started, see, here we are talking about it, and
No,
I
but-
can't.
because-
But I can't.
But here's the
Piers.
thing, Rhonda.
I wish I could.
But Rhonda, let me explain to you why this is important. People just think of you as this monster murderess who blazed bullets into the man she loved, right? And it was a horrific, cold-blooded, premeditated murder. That's what they think you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm only asking you one thing about it, is in that moment, how did you feel?
I just went into like a complete state of shock. Just standing there, just like, oh my God. It was my worst nightmare realized.
If you had your time again, Rhonda, in that moment, what would you do? Knowing what happened.
I don't know. I don't know what I could have done differently. I honestly don't know. I don't know. I just know that I'm very lucky to be alive. I do know that I almost died that day.
Jimmy's body lay undiscovered for 4 days. Rhonda went on the run, taking their 9-year-old son. But the police caught her 600 miles away in Kansas.
These are so tight. They're every time I walk.
Unfortunately, that's the feds, the U.S. Marshals. I know they're up against your action.
I just don't know what's going on. So
Okay, I understand.
I was on vacation with my son,
Okay.
and so I'm just.
What are you doing?
We went to. I was gonna go on audition for a Nashville show. I'm a singer, and so I had my guitar and my piano with me, and I chickened out when we got there.
You never get with that content.
I didn't.
Did you go shoot that day?
Did I go shoot at Red that day? Yes.
So you did ever get in the content, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Where'd you land?
In the years before the murder, Rhonda and Jimmy were part of the oil-rich elite in Texas. They were together, off and on, for over a decade.
He was devoted to her. He worshiped her. She controlled him, and he just loved her and worshiped every second of every day.
When did you first meet Rhonda, and what was your first impression?
I met Rhonda back during the late 70s, early 80s, during the disco days. Everybody was hanging out at the discos and hanging out at the bars, and she was just one of the girls that hung out everywhere, and one of the beautiful Texas blondes that you saw out all the time.
Was the big catch for women like Rhonda an oil guy?
It was a total prize. I mean, if you were to write a story about the art of the deal for women back in those days, and they latch on to an oil man, they go from an apartment to $1 million house in River Oaks.
I think that she saw a different world that she wanted access to. She grew up with cowboys, rodeo, and Jimmy came from a different world, a world of more sophistication, and I think that's what she was looking for.
Jimmy first set eyes on Rhonda while watching the 1990 Miss Texas beauty pageant on television.
When he saw me, he said, "I'm going to marry that girl." And he became determined to meet me and to seek me out.
People thought you made a great couple when you first got together. Is that how you felt in the end? I mean, you find him attractive?
Yes, I did. And
handsome?
Yeah, and he was funny. He was very funny, and he could cook. He introduced me to, you know, a lifestyle that I had never experienced before, with having a lot of people over and big parties. And
you loved him?
Yes. Yeah.
Like deeply. Proper, passionate love? You said deeply there?
Yes, I did, but I'm trying to explain to you, Piers, that it didn't last very long.
I understand that, but I want you just to try and remember the good times. There must have been between you a real draw, a real love.
Yes. And then when we had our son, that kept me hoping that we could have a normal life. But his obsession with me, Jimmy had a persona that he put on in public and one very dark one in private. So it's really hard to sit here and talk about the great times when there were very few in the beginning. It turned bad. It turned bad rather quickly, Piers. It did.
I've been a police officer for 25 years. I've been a detective for 17. All of it's in violent crimes. And no, I have not seen anyone plan it to this detail.
I did do it. I did. He came after me, and I did do it.
That's all we want to know is what happened. We want to give you...
The decomposing body of Jimmy Jost was found in southwest Austin with 10 gunshot wounds. Glover said she shot him because he beat her and she thought he was going to kill her.
She couldn't ever get rid of him until finally, when he ran out of money, then she decided to kill him.
He came at me, and we struggled, and I got to my briefcase, and I got the gun, and he hit me, and he was screaming, "You fucking bitch, I'll kill you," in a demonic voice, just like Satan would. And I just emptied the gun, and I ran. He just fell.
What exactly happened on that final fateful day of Jimmy's life?
Well, the evidence shows that she went to a shooting range here in Austin called Reds. She had been there before. She practiced with the gun that she used to kill Jimmy. She went about 10 minutes away to Jimmy's house after having called him, and our belief was to lure him to the house. And she went up into the upstairs area where there was an attic attached to a bedroom, and she waited. Our belief was that Jimmy would have done just about anything for Rhonda and was probably very excited that she had called him. And she surprised him, came out of the attic area, and she just started shooting, and he turned and then fell. And that the evidence from the medical examiner was that the wounds were consistent with her having shot him as he lay dying or dead. She fled and was eventually arrested in Kansas.
Rhonda still claims Jimmy violently abused her, but there is no compelling evidence to prove that. There is, though, compelling evidence it was premeditated. A month before the murder, she practiced killing Jimmy at a gun range.
The first time that you go to the gun range is about a month or so before Jimmy dies. Obviously, from the outside, you look at that and you think, well, that's a bit weird. Why is Rhonda going to a gun range for the first time so soon to Jimmy's death? Why did you go that first time?
First of all, the owners of Top Gun are the Saragusas, and that's Rocky's uncle. So if I'm going to murder somebody, I certainly wouldn't have gone to a gun range where the people know me.
What are you really thinking about? What's concerning you enough to want to go and learn how to fire a gun suddenly?
Well, he came to my apartment 12 times trying to get in, to get to me.
So you've gone to the range because you want to protect yourself?
I really felt that if he just knew that I had a gun, like because the Saragusas knew us, or even if he saw that I had one, then he would stop stalking me, because I lived in a paranoid life of when is he going to when is my day coming? When is he gonna finish me off? Because he was so serious that if he could not have me, no one would.
Why should I believe you?
Why should you believe me? Because the facts are there, Piers. If you look hard enough, the facts are there. And I want you to look. I'm begging you to look at the case from a different perspective and not just listen to what these other people are saying.
She planned this. She ran through a scenario, bought a gun, ran through a scenario on how to use the gun in the scenario. That's the scenario she used to kill Jimmy. And then she ran. She didn't go to the police. She didn't call anybody and say, hey, you know, he just tried to do this to me or that to me and I killed him and I'm worried they will blame me for it. She ran. She didn't reach out to anybody. She ran. And she was trying to hide from the police until we caught her. She's a calculated, cold-hearted murderer.
Only Rhonda knows why she took the life of Jimmy Jost that day. She surely must have known that by doing so, she would ruin her own life too.
First off, I miss my buddy. He was a good guy. All right? And you look back, hell, I'm 64 now. Jimmy would have been 66 or 67. When we were doing all of going nuts and chasing women and having a blast, we were in our early 30s and our 40s. And you look back on it, you miss him. He was fun to be around. There was always something going on. And when you look at Rhonda, and I kind of feel sorry for Rhonda. She just made a serious big ass mistake. I'll say hello to her. I'll sit down and have lunch with her. I don't, I'm not gonna hate her. You forgive a lot when you get older. You don't have time to hate anymore.
We, the jury, having found the defendant Rhonda Lee Glover guilty of the offense of murder, assess her punishment at confinement in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for a term of 46 years.
On a human level, this is excruciatingly difficult. To talk to somebody who's incarcerated in prison for as long as you have to be and have already been, right?
Sure.
Living with the consequences of what happened that day. If Jimmy was here now, what would you say to him?
I haven't thought that far. What would I say to him?
If you had the chance to speak to him one more time, what would you say? Would you?
Why would he want to hurt us? If he loved us so much, why would he do all those things to us? Why would he hurt us?
Would you apologize to him for killing him?
Yeah. And I would tell him that I didn't mean to kill him. I really believed I shot him in the elbow 6 times.
Rhonda, do you still love him?
Yes. We have a child.
Think you'll always love Jimmy?
Yes.
Rhonda, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Rhonda Glover will serve at least another 11 years in prison for killing the man she loved.
I was told that you do a particularly good Amazing Grace, that was like your go-to song. Is that true?
It might be.
Do you still sing it?
Oh, yeah.
Could you sing it now?
Sure. Amazing grace, how sweet the
My view on Erin Caffey is she's a murderer. Pure and simple.
I've never come across anyone as dangerous as Erin, and I hope that I never do.
I found was blind, but now I see.
Wow. You have a great voice.
Thank you.
I mean, a really good voice. You can properly sing.
Thank you.
I have to ask this because just having spent some time with you, I can't picture you as somebody that would want her family annihilated. It doesn't make any sense to me that you would want that to happen.
A mother, 39 years of age, 2 male children aged 8 and 13 have been found in the residence that has been burned.
We were just a normal, all-American family, living day by day.
Did you shoot them kids? No. They just got caught in the fire? No. I'm not the one that did it.
My mind's thinking, if I die, they may never know who did this. I've got to stay alive long enough so I can identify the killers.
My heart completely broke for Erin. I believed her story initially. It was convincing.
I was on my way to meet Erin's father, Terry, at the scene of the murders. The Caffeys were a church-going family, and Penny homeschooled Erin and her 2 younger brothers, Matthew and Tyler. Terry has not been back to a site of his old house for years.
I suppose my first thought, Terry, walking down here is it's so beautiful and it's so peaceful.
It's peaceful. You would never dream that something so tragic happened somewhere so beautiful. It's so quiet when you come out here, but that night it was so chaotic, so loud, the gunshots.
What is the first thing that you hear or experience that night that makes you realize something awful is about to happen?
It's quiet. We're peacefully asleep in our bed, and then all of a sudden our bedroom door flies open, and you can hear the door hitting the wall, like bam. And I'm thinking maybe my youngest, Tyler, had a nightmare or something. He flew into the bedroom. But just as quickly as the door flew open, bam, 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 the gun blast went off, and we're being riddled by gunfire. Then I knew immediately we're being attacked.
You recognize one of the two people that have come in, right?
So Charles Wilkinson.
So you suddenly realize that the person that is causing this mayhem, or one of the two people, is your daughter's boyfriend, the guy who until 2 days before has been her boyfriend.
Correct. He had been in our home many times. I knew immediately why he was there. He was to get revenge because we made him break up with our daughter. I heard my son Matthew cry out. He said, Charlie, Charlie, why are you doing this? No, Charlie, no, please, why are you doing this? And then I'm trying to get up. And then all of a sudden, bam, bam, I heard the gunshots. I realized Matthew's being shot. So I managed to get to my feet. I'm trying to get out the bedroom door to get upstairs to my children. But by this time, the house is totally engulfed. I'm hit by a wall of flames, forced back into my bedroom, and there's Penny laying there. And when I saw her, I immediately knew she was gone, because not only did they come in and shoot, that he also came in with this samurai-type sword, and she would nearly be decapitated. And I guess it's just the shock that I'm in, because I'm thinking, if I could just get to my neighbors, somehow we can fix this. We can get them out, everything's gonna be okay. And I'm not thinking rational, I've just gotta get help, gotta get them out. Then my thoughts went to, if I die here, I may not be able to tell who did this. I've gotta stay alive long enough so I can identify the killers.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
This is Tommy Gaston. I've got a man that's been shot out here at my house.
Okay, so he's been shot?
Yes, and we've also got a house on fire out here.
An attack on a Rains County family left a mother and her 2 sons dead and a father in the hospital. The victims were found in a burning house near Emory, 60 miles east of Dallas.
The crime has rocked the Rains County area. No one here can remember a tragedy of this magnitude or a crime this horrific.
Terry was fighting for his life in hospital, but he told police that Erin's boyfriend Charlie was one of the murderers. He was arrested, along with the other accomplices. At the house, the bodies of Penny, Matthew, and Tyler had been found, but there was no sign of Erin. When police searched Charlie's trailer, they made an unexpected discovery.
The search of the house was it was a standard deal. The bedroom was very cluttered, mattress on the floor, clothes everywhere. I came across something that I looked like a wig, hair wig, blonde hair wig, thought it was kind of strange. Moving it aside, pull it by the hair, and it was Erin Caffey opening her eyes, kind of startled us a little bit. So, not a little bit, a lot,
Erin claimed she'd been drugged and kidnapped from the house. But after just 2 days, the disturbing truth had emerged. The police went to the hospital to break the news to Terry that his daughter was involved in the murders.
Caffey, I'm Kirk Fisher. I'm the chief deputy for the sheriff's office.
I guess first they want to know how my daughter is. They won't tell me a whole lot, and they won't let me watch the news and everything.
She's doing fine.
I don't want to know a whole lot of details, but what kind of involvement is she in?
Her involvement is great.
I'm here for you. Take a deep breath, brother. God is in control.
I'd been granted an hour to interview Erin Caffey at the Hilltop unit in Gatesville, Texas. Investigators remain convinced it was all her idea to kill her family. But Erin has always denied this.
Hi, Erin. Nice to meet you. Erin, it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
You're much smaller than I thought you'd be. How tall are you?
4'11".
4'11". And how old are you now?
24.
24. And you've been inside here for how long?
8, going on 8 years now.
You were 16 when this all happened. When you look back, can you quite believe that that person was you that got caught up in such a terrible thing?
No, not really. I mean, just from the way we lived, you know, who we were in the church and all that. You know, I was voted when we went to a youth camp, you know, most likely to succeed, you know, and best fun-loving person. And never did I think I'd be sitting here.
See, that's extraordinary, isn't it? Most likely to succeed, most fun-loving person. You're from a very loving family. And yet it ends in this terrible, catastrophic mass murder. What the hell happened?
I guess what it all boils down to when I think about it, and I think about other young kids that have came in after me, and people that'll come in even when I die, you know, young kids, it's all about choices. And the choices I made at a young age. Didn't think that it would affect, you know, I just thought it was just affecting me and the little stuff that I was doing, but the little stuff adds up and then it just, you know, blows up and we don't think about choices.
When your dad looked you in the eye and said, "Did you do this? Were you involved in this?" What did you say to him the first time he asked you that question?
At first he told me he loved me, and then he said, you know, "Did you have any involvement in this?" And then when I saw him there, I was like, no. And I started screaming. He just said, "Okay, just don't talk about it." I guess just it hit me hard when I saw his arm in that sling.
That was reality for you.
Yeah.
You realized this was not a game.
Right.
Your dad had nearly died, and everybody else was dead. This was real.
I thought it was the most disturbing thing I'd ever seen. I had seen things where there were more victims. I had seen cases that were more heinous. I had seen cases that were more premeditated. But when you took the totality of all the circumstances, it really was the most disturbing thing I had ever seen.
I just can't believe she'd do something like this. Her own brothers and her mom.
When I look back on it now, this was all just stupid. I mean, for what? You know, they weren't beating me, they weren't starving me to death. I had it made. You know, Daddy bought me a car, let me have a job.
What is your view of Erin Caffey?
Gonna have to think on that a little bit.
Erin seems to be one of those people that everybody has to think about for quite a bit, because what she did is apparently so out of kilter with her upbringing, her parenting, the schooling. There's nothing there to suggest mass murder.
It didn't jive at all. It never has jived, as it didn't with any of the other three. It didn't fit Charlie, it didn't fit Charles, it didn't fit Bobby. And that was part of what made this case so perplexing all along, was what in the world made them think, A, that this was a good idea, B, that they could get away with it, or C, that there weren't obvious long-term ramifications for this. It just defied all logic. It still does.
A community east of Dallas is still coping tonight with an attack that left a mother and her two sons dead and a father in the hospital.
In custody are 18-year-old Bobby Johnson, 20-year-old Charles Wade, and 19-year-old Charles Wilkinson. He's the boyfriend of 16-year-old Erin Caffey.
I'll ask you a question. You shot her dad, right?
Yeah.
Did you shoot them kids?
No.
I told him I could see you shooting her dad because you're a hothead, but I couldn't see you shooting them two little kids. That don't make no sense.
Trying to make sense of how this could have happened comes down to this question. Is Erin Caffey a cold, calculating murderer? Or is she a vulnerable young woman who just got caught up in the romantic thrall of a controlling boyfriend?
When you look back on life before this atrocity, do you think of any moments now when you look back and think, oh, maybe that was a warning sign, that was something? I mean, you must agonize over this. I mean, have you been able to identify anything?
One thing is that when Erin began to date Charlie, I noticed Erin began to change. You know, before this happened, Erin was a very happy young lady. But when Charlie came around, I noticed she began to change, you know. But there was just something about Charlie that just, it was like when you looked him in the eye, you could see right through his soul. It was like you could see right through him, even though he's trying to be overly polite in some areas. But I just sensed that something didn't seem right.
As the relationship with Charlie Wilkinson develops, and you and Penny get more and more concerned, and Penny goes to the library, finds his MySpace page and sees all this stuff about drinking and having sex with multiple people. Any parent seeing that, with that little girl being 16, you know, pretty innocent girl from all accounts, is going to freak out a bit.
We knew we had to do something. It was time to have this sit-down talk. There was no more denying this or thinking there's not a problem or allowing Erin to resolve this issue because it wasn't being resolved because it's ongoing.
But she took it surprisingly well when you said you can't see him anymore, right?
Somewhat. She held her head. I remember her holding her head down and teary-eyed a little bit, and she said that she had been wanting to end it but didn't know how. And I didn't really know how to take that at that time. And I said, well, just consider it done.
I was shocked, angry, hurt. This was a guy I was supposed to spend the rest of my life with, and he loved me.
You loved him?
Yeah.
Like properly loved him?
I don't know if at 16 I knew what proper love was, but at the time, oh yeah, I was in love, and we were gonna get married. And
He said since that he felt the only way he could get you back was to do what he said you wanted, which was to kill your family.
I can't put words in his mouth, I can't.
Did you remember saying that to him?
No.
What conversation did you have with him about killing your family?
He said it like it was a game. He had a name for it. And
what was the name?
Fubar.
Fubar.
And he would always, I mean, there was no really serious planning. He would always just say, I just want a fubar. And I would...
What does that mean?
Like, to kill your family. And I would like laugh, joke about it, okay, and didn't take him seriously. I mean, he kind of had an anger problem, you know, and just kind of blew him off.
Bobby Johnson and Charles Wade picked up Charlie Wilkinson, and they went out to Erin's house at around midnight. And Erin was home with the family, and they had a black lab that was outside, and the dog started barking, and they ended up leaving. And then after that was when Erin was calling Charlie, where are you? I'll take care of the dog. I'll keep the dog quiet. You need to come back. They picked Erin up, and the four of them then went to a cemetery and sat in the car for an hour or so and talked about what they were going to do and talked about how they were going to commit the murders. And that was always the point in time where I was just so perplexed why didn't someone say, hey, wait, this is a bad idea. Ultimately, nobody did, and so they turned around and they went back to the home. The boys parked the car out on the road. Erin and Bobby sat in the back seat. Charles and Charlie went up to the house, and of course Erin had left the front door unlocked. Charlie shot Terry first, and then he shot Penny, and the gun jammed. He grabbed a sword and stabbed Penny with the sword and almost cut her head off. Then the boys heard the ruckus downstairs. They were upstairs yelling, and Charles Wade shot up and shot Matthew. Then Charlie Wilkinson went and took the knife and stabbed Tyler to death as he hid in the closet, which was probably, of all the things that were done that night, the most disturbing to me. And then after that, they set the house on fire with big lighters they had purchased earlier in the evening, and then they left. Charles Wade and Bobby dropped Erin and Charlie off at Charlie's brother's trailer, where they then had sex, and Charles and Bobby went on home.
Later that morning, the police arrested Charlie. Under interrogation, he told them the murders had been instigated by Erin. But she was in hospital, still insisting that she'd been drugged and kidnapped from the house.
I made contact with the female officers there, requested them to have a full toxicology done on Miss Caffey, and I requested the officer to gather her clothing and tell me if it smelled like smoke, because if you're in a room that's full of smoke, you're going to smell like smoke. And the officer advised me that there was no smell of smoke anywhere.
Erin, you said that you woke up and smoke was everywhere, is that right? And you said that two guys were with swords. Are you okay? Tell me again what they told you to do.
They get down. They just stay down. Face down.
Where were you at when you first saw them?
I was in this house that was like full of smoke. And then that's the last thing I really remember until this morning, I guess, when the cops woke me up. And I couldn't even remember where I was.
You've been identified as the ringleader, the master of this operation. It was all your idea, you driving it. You were the one that wanted this to happen. You wanted your family to be killed.
The media, you know, when things first happen, the media takes something and runs with it. And I just think that when this first happened, the media took something somebody said and then just blew it up.
How do you measure that against what happened on the night? Because you're inside the house, you make over a dozen phone calls to him. You then go out, you sit in the car, they've got guns, they've got swords. They go in, you know what they're going in to do. As you're sitting in that car and you know they've gone in to do this, what's going through your mind then?
I guess
You can hear it, right?
No.
You couldn't hear it? Couldn't hear the gunfire?
No.
You knew what they were doing?
All right. I guess I wasn't thinking.
What people found extraordinary, amid many extraordinary things, is that you went back and eventually end up with your boyfriend and you have sex together after this has happened, after you know this guy has killed your family.
It's, the best way I can explain it is when you make one bad choice. It's like when you, I guess maybe if you tell a lie. I don't know, this is a good way of explaining it. When you tell a lie, it's not just that one lie. Then you cover it up with this lie, and then this lie, and the lies get caught up.
One of the investigators said, you were the best liar they'd ever met. I don't know if that's true or not. What I feel as you're telling this story is that you're honest to a point. I mean, it's almost like a barrier comes up where you don't want to admit that you were that person because it's easier, that it's hard to admit what probably happened.
You want to stay with that story, that's fine.
That's what I heard last night, is when she said, Charlie, get rid of my parents. I'm tired of being beat.
Well, I'll tell you, I've seen her today, and she don't have a beat mark on her. You see any beat mark on her? I didn't either. I ain't seen a mark on her.
She said that her mom had been pushing her and stuff like that, and
Well, that's
hitting her and
not
slapping
even-
her and punching her.
Is it worth killing them?
No.
Anybody say anything in the car after y'all left the house?
Mm-hmm.
What?
Erin said, holy shit, that was awesome.
Holy shit, that was awesome.
The accomplices' stories matched. They all said it was Erin who'd been behind the killings. But in the 8 years since the murders, Erin has continued to deny that she was the mastermind.
Let me ask you a really difficult question, because it is a difficult question. Do you believe the version that Erin's giving you, or do you feel like you have to believe it at this stage?
I think for the most part, I believe. There's some details that maybe not, that's not completely out there, but for the most part, I believe. You know your children. I'm not saying that our children are innocent, but you get to know your kids, what they're capable of, what they're not. Erin had responsibility that night. She really did. But I didn't really know how to take all this back then. But looking back now, I honestly believe that she was not the mastermind. And I'm not saying that out of denial because it's my daughter, but I don't believe my daughter's evil, and I don't believe that she was the driving force. She was a contributor, yes, but you gotta understand, this was a vulnerable 16-year-old girl. This is this controlling psychopath, sociopath guy. You mix that together, this is what you ended up with.
Charlie Wilkinson came from a broken home, but often spent time here at the house of Teresa Myers. He became good friends with her son and confided in her. He called her Mum.
There are two schools of thought. One is that he was the driving force with his friend, that he wanted to somehow impress Erin, maybe win her back, whatever it may be, and it was all from him. The other school of thought is it was all driven by Erin. She's this malevolent, evil young woman who compelled him to do this. What do you think?
I think because I know Charlie, he wasn't an evil person. I don't think that he had an evil bone in his body. But the times leading up to what happened, I had many conversations with him, you know, where he felt like she was in danger.
In danger how?
I remember a time when my son was with him, and they were due home, and Charlie always made sure that he got Justin home on time, but they were late. And I reached him, I'm like, what is going on? He's like, I'm at the police station with Charlie. I'm like, what are you doing there? And he said, he's up here because Erin said that her mom hit her. I mean, I was upset with Charlie. I said, do you know? I mean, do you know that she was hit? Well, she said. And I told him, I said, you know, she said doesn't show proof. Have you seen marks on her? Have you seen her mom hit her? Have you, done anything like that? And he's like, well, no. And I said, then you're taking her word. And from that moment, I kind of felt like she was pulling strings. You know, she had a hold, and she was trying to manipulate him into believing that all these things were happening when they weren't.
You were trying, obviously, in a delicate way to get Charlie to leave her, to move on.
Oh, yeah. But he just truly in his heart felt like he loved her. And love can be a really scary thing.
Let me ask you a question. When you went in there shooting at Mom and Dad, what was your intention? What were you intending to do?
I guess I was attempting to kill him. Because I thought I wasn't the one.
Are you? Is she worth all this?
The very first day we had court, we went up to Rains County, and that was the first day we met Terry. He was just out of hospital. You could still see the holes in his face. And we sat down and we had a meeting, said that we don't have to talk about the issue of the death penalty yet. It's too early. There's no sense in doing it at this point. And I'll never forget, he just looked at me and he said, he ate at my table. And I was taken aback by that. And he said, I want the death penalty. And he was adamant as to Charles Wade and Charlie. And I said, okay.
I remember my pastor coming to me and saying, we need to pray for these young men and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, why? They can just rot in hell is what I told him. And that's how much anger I had. I remember every month they would have these pre-trial hearings. And I remember one time sitting 2 or 3 benches back, and I could see the backs of their heads. And I thought how easy it would be to sneak in there with a gun and just blow their heads off. And I contemplated that for a whole month. And that was my thought, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go take their life. I went out and purchased a gun. But when it came down to it, I even had the gun in my truck when I went to the court that day. I remember backing my truck up in front of the court, and I went to go get my gun, and I just began to shake. And it was like, this is not the answer. This is not gonna bring your family back.
While the court hearings continued, a new witness came forward, Erin's former boyfriend, Michael Washburn. His testimony was absolutely pivotal to nailing the lies of Erin Caffey, and finally proved that she had been the mastermind behind the murders.
In doing the investigation here, we've learned that that you and Erin had dated at one time. What caused the breakup?
Her mom and dad didn't want me seeing her.
Now, as I ask questions, if I ask a direct or hard question, I need a grown-up man's response, okay, to help solve what truly happened that night.
I'm going to tell you the truth.
Okay.
And she told me that she was going to hire somebody to go out there and kill her parents.
Why was she wanting to have somebody go out to the house and kill the parents?
Because she told me that every time she gets a boyfriend that she really likes, her mom and dad tries to break them up.
Let me ask you some tough questions. You can answer them however you want, but I think you're in a position now in your life, and you've had a lot of time to think about this, where you can probably be more honest than you could have been maybe 8 years ago. What's pretty clear is that you certainly told people that you wanted your family dead. Why was that?
Well, I've talked to several young ladies in here, and, you know, they've said, well, I said one time when I was, you know, your age, you know, I wish my parents were dead. And, you know, we say things when we're young and if we're mad, not realizing that you gotta be careful what you say, and especially, you know, to whoever.
As you sit here now and you look back over what happened, how much personal responsibility do you now take?
Well, I'm still working on that, and please hear me say I'm not, you know, I first got locked up, I do the blame game, but I know I need to for myself and then for others, take responsibility for my actions. And like I said, it's
What are those actions? What are you taking responsibility for?
It's just, I don't know, I've still got some things I gotta process and work out.
Do you accept that your family would still all be alive if you had wanted them to be alive? In other words, that you could have stopped this at any time?
Yes, oh yeah.
You accept that?
Yes.
That in itself must be a terrible burden on you, that you had that power to stop this happening, that you never chose to take that choice, that option.
For me, the most extraordinary part of this story is that Terry and Erin still have any relationship at all, and that Terry has found a place in his heart to keep loving his daughter.
To my opinion, Daddy's in total denial. He wants her still out of jail.
The way I have always viewed Terry is that Terry has to do, and he is entitled to do, whatever he needs to do to get through. And if that requires him to have denial about Erin, I don't fault him for that, and he has every right to do that.
Your dad's a remarkable man. He stood by you through thick and thin, knowing what you did. What was the first moment when you were able to say to him, I did have something to do with this?
It was about the second or third visit. He came by himself, and for some reason that day we were emotional from the start. And he had showed me where he got shot. And I just started crying and rubbing his arm and told him I was sorry, and then that's when we got into it. We talked about things.
What was his reaction to that coming out of your mouth for the first time?
You know, my dad has said from the very beginning that even if I was the one that had came in that night and stood over his bed, he would still love me and come to see me. And he said no matter what I could do, it would not change his love for me. And I just didn't believe it. And for a long time, I was just worried one day I wake up and he would just decide, you know, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. And he just reassures me over and over again, you know, he loves me. And no matter what, he's going to be by my side. And he talks about unconditional love.
I mean, that's an extraordinary thing for him to do. It's attracted lots of reaction, good and bad for him. Some people think it's amazing and the power of his faith. Other people think it's ridiculous and he shouldn't be standing by someone that killed his wife and his 2 sons. I, as a father of 4 kids, I can understand why he's taken this decision, why he stood by you. You're all he's got from that family.
In the awful months after the murders, Terry chose to come back here and live in a camper van. The fire had completely destroyed his home, and few traces remained of the life that he once shared with his family.
It seems to me a strange thing to do, like the last thing I'd want to do. Right. What pulled you to stay here for those 4 months?
I felt this is my home, and I'm trying to make sense of what happened. I'm thinking if I could go back to the property, I still, in a sense, still have my family with me, have the memories, and not just the memories of that night, but I have the memories of my children playing. I came back because I needed to get my healing, and those were some terrible, terrible months. I still sleep with a loaded gun, but I have it close by in a nightstand. But then I was actually sleep with the gun on my chest. I would just lay there really, wouldn't sleep much. And when I would doze off, I would wake up here and bam, I would hear the gunshots, and I would wake up and I would just be drenched with sweat.
You've said that you feel a sense of guilt, or you did for a long time, about what happened. No rational person looking at this situation could level any guilt your way at all. Quite the opposite. Have you been able to yourself acknowledge that actually it's not your fault, that you don't need to feel guilty?
Finally, you know, folks will ask me, people will say, what was your process of forgiveness? Who did you forgive first, you know? And I also always say Erin, you know, that was my daughter. That was still a struggle, but I was able to forgive her, rebuild this relationship. And then it was going forward to the boys, forgiving them. And, you know, I've forgiven them. And I was still struggling. I had this heaviness and realized I had to forgive myself. I didn't cause this. I didn't make those boys come here and do that. I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't set the things in motion that night for this to happen. If I knew they were coming, I would have stopped them. I would have protected my family by all costs. And so it was a struggle. That very shed over there, there's a few things that were saved because it was in the shed and not in my home. And I came to one letter where Penny has said, "You're such a great father." And she says, said that you're my hero. You're my hero. And at that moment, I just broke because I thought, you're a hero? I'm an opposite of a hero. And that was during those times I was really struggling with this with myself. Because I said, I should have protected you and the kids that night. And I began to go through all the letters and the cards and brought back so many emotions. In that same tote, she had saved little baggies of the children's first haircut, lots of their first haircut. So I'm opening this up and I'm smelling and I'm picking up their hairs. My boys. It was such an emotional day that day, you know, to think about that. But so it has been a struggle to finally get to that place where I could forgive myself.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bless you.
Terry eventually requested the accomplices be spared the death penalty. Charlie Wilkinson is serving life without parole. Charles Wade is also serving life without parole. Bobby Johnson will serve a minimum of 20 years. And Erin Caffey will serve a minimum of 42 years for murder.
Have you had any contact with the other three members of the group? Nothing?
No, sir.
Not from the moment
No.
everyone got arrested? That was it?
Right.
Do you think you ever will again?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I mean, Charlie's said on record that he thinks he'll always love you. Do you love him still?
I mean, I forgive. I mean, you know, we all...
It's not about forgiveness. It's a different thing. It's about whether you love him. Whether that burning passion that you have for each other is still there for you.
No, not that way.
What do you feel about him?
I feel bad for him. I don't know what it's like at the men's unit. I heard it's horrible. And I think about his family, you know.
Do you feel guilty for what happened to their son? Do you feel like without you pushing him, it would never have happened?
I've never thought about that.
Now I'm asking you, do you think that's something you should feel? That actually you could have stopped him doing this if you wanted to?
Yeah.
What do you think the first things that you'll do will be when you do get out? Have you thought about that day?
Yes, me and my dad have talked about it. We talk about the first thing I want to do is go pay my respects to the graveyard.
What do you think you'll say when you have that moment?
I don't know if I'll be able to say anything. I'm just tearing up now. My dad said that the first time he went there, he couldn't speak. So I can imagine, you know, it might be like that for me too.
But it's something you really want to do. It's part of the healing process, right? Well, Erin, it's been fascinating talking to you.
Thanks.
You're not what I expected. I haven't interviewed many monsters or mass murderers, but I've got a much better insight into you, the human being behind what happened. And I wish you all the very best here in the future and trying to make yourself a better person. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming. Thank you.